Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Two-Man Game here on Claibs Online. I'm Bob Ramsey. That's Matt Roccio, and we're here to talk hoops. We talk college all season. We've talked NBA, and here we are. We're to the Final Four in the National Basketball Association rocking. I just want to brag a little bit. My streak continues. So far, I've gotten every game prediction completely wrong.
In fairness to you, so have a lot of people who get paid a lot more money than we do to make those predictions. So a lot of things did not go as people expected in some of these series, that's for sure. And I tell you what, in some ways, what happened in that first game in Game 7, the Eastern Conference, Milwaukee and Boston, little bit less unexpected, kind of something that if it didn't happen, you wouldn't have been shocked, but there was a progression, towards the eventual happenings there. But, in the Western Conference, Dallas and Phoenix, that's the definition of inexplicable. There's no way anyone saw that level of destruction to the Suns coming.
Well, let's go chronologically because I'm a linear guy. I have to go step by step. 109-81.
Man, you must hate Tarantino. You must hate Tarantino movies.
Well, it's one of the rare. Actually, Pulp Fiction is one of the rare nonlinear stories that not only can I stand, that I absolutely love. More often than not, I struggle. So anyway, Celtics and the Bucks. How did they stop Giannis? How did they stop him? What did they do? He scores. Well, he had 25 points and 20 rebounds. That's great. But 26 shots. So I guess my question really isn't, it's not that they didn't stop him. They didn't let him completely take over the game. He really had to work for every shot, didn't he?
Yeah, and let's look at that. So you take away the 4 3-point shots and the one that he made. He's 9 for 22 from the field, so below the 3-point line. And he only gets to the line 6 times. That's just solid defense. That's packing the paint. That's having your defense on a string. Listen, a lot of people want to talk about Grant Williams' offensive Game 7, and you have to, obviously. The guy tied the record for most three-pointers in a Game 7. But to talk about just his Game 7 offensive explosion is to ignore 7 straight games of him drawing Giannis Antetokounmpo for large stretches, especially the last 5 games. Jason Tatum was not getting it done defensively, and it was hurting his offense in Game 1 and 2, and he even had a bad Game 3 where he had 10 points. And so Grant Williams taking that defensive pressure on him as somebody who's giving up 7 inches to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Grant Williams is a power forward, but he's 6'5", he's probably 6'4" without shoes. So he's giving up 7 inches and God knows how much in wingspan, and you combine that with just an incredible amount of help defense from guys like Marcus Smart, Daniel Tice, Robert Williams, everyone that was out there, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford. That was a team defensive display. That's something that I think a lot of people are going to be shocked about if you're a casual fan, but this Eastern Conference series, and heck, those Game 7s, I think, were more so than anything defined by coaching and adjustments and defense. And those aren't a lot of things that people associate with the NBA, but those are undoubtedly the things that played out. And I think that's a great example.
Yeah, and then you take a look, again, just looking at raw numbers, you can't always tell what's really happening. But when you take a look at what the Celtics did, Tatum has 23, but only 14 shots. He hit half of his shots. He hit 5 threes and incorporated more of the team concept. And as a team, 22 threes at 40%. Big time.
Yeah, I mean, they were bombing him. I mean, that was unbelievable. And Tatum had 8 assists. The way he was passing out of those, and a lot of his assists were for back-breaking huge threes throughout the game. Specifically, we get into that game. You look at the very end of that first half. The Bucks were really coming back there after having a good first half. The Celtics, hit them with a couple hard punches in the second. They take a big lead. Milwaukee's coming back, and then Marcus Smart makes that incredibly smart play, getting that foul call before the buzzer when he tries to take that 3. He hits the 3 free throws. I think that went from a 3-point deficit to a 6-point deficit for the Bucks, and immediately Jaylen Brown hits a mid-range. Very next possession, after a bad Giannis take where he goes a little bit too hard and loses it because they pack the defense, exactly what we were talking about. Yeah, Jason Tatum comes down, beats his man off the dribble, driving kick, Grant Williams 3, and now all of a sudden it's a 9-10 point deficit, and the Bucks never recovered. So that's just a great example of how Tatum was getting his team involved. And so we talked about going into game 6 and 7 or game 5. What Tatum had to have 2 out of 3 incredible games. He didn't do it in game 5. Could he do it in game 6 and 7? Well, he sure as hell did it in game 6, going for 43 points, putting the team on his back and absolutely out-dueling Giannis in every way, shape, and form, pulling up for threes, hitting them in transition, off the catch and shoot, off the dribble, everything. Tatum was a monster in game 6, and then he was just a different kind of monster in game 7. After you have that kind of 43-point game, they're sending a little extra help. Guys like Connaughton, who played 32 minutes and are giving up a lot of fouls but not playing too well. They're just throwing a body at Tatum every time he tries to get inside. And all he was doing was passing out, and his guys were hitting the shots. So Jason Tatum went to another level in our mind. And I don't think it was necessarily just because his team won the game. I think there was a level that Tatum was hitting on game 6 and 7 when you add that to the pressure, going up against a 2-time MVP, a defensive player of the year, the best basketball player currently on the planet in a lot of people's minds, and you outdueled him for 2 games. We have to say there's a caveat. Khris Middleton is an incredible player. Khris Middleton taking a step up himself from a slightly above average player, borderline all-star, to an all-pro. That's how they won a championship. You have to have your sidekick in the NBA. You still got to have that second guy. So Giannis didn't have him. But that doesn't take away what Jason Tatum was able to do across games 6 and 7. He took a step to another echelon, and this is going to be a guy, if he keeps going up, he's going to be an MVP candidate, next year solidly for sure.
Now let's move to the game that we in the media like to overhype things. Something is either the best all time, the worst all time, or we can't talk about it. I got to tell you, I can't think of a bigger shellacking in a game 7 in any sport with the home team taking it in the shorts. For folks in St. Louis who watch us on 2-man game, the closest I can come to, but it was on the road, was the Cardinals' destruction in 1985 after the Denkinger game. Mm-hmm. But next to that, and again, that was on the road, a home game for the Suns. They lose by 33, but for much of the game, they were down by 40-ish. I think the biggest deficit was, 43?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. And it was, when you think of NBA playoffs, elimination game, move forward to the conference championship, it's the epitome of competition and being competitive. It's one of the most non-competitive games I've ever seen anywhere. How do you explain this?
It's hard to explain, and again, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. And I think it's going to be, there's going to be an outsized reaction. There already has been if you're looking at the Suns fan base already. It was a bad game, and it was a culmination of a playoff run by the Suns where they never a single time looked like the same team in the regular season. And so you have to give credits to the New Orleans Pelicans. You have to give a lot of credit to the Dallas Mavericks for throwing them off their game. But also, I think, talking about coaching earlier in the episode, it's going to be a big part of today, because I think what we saw, instead of an incredibly great coaching matchup, in the East, I thought we saw Monty Williams and the Suns coaching staff completely fail to adjust to a better game plan from the Dallas Mavericks in every way, shape, and form. And I thought last night was the culmination of that. Their inability to track shooters off the pick and roll or the pick and pop, guys like Maxi Kleber and Davis Bertans, which is inexplicable when you have the athletes that the Suns have. I mean, there were four possessions in the first quarter when they took that 27-17 lead, where it was the most simple play in the world. Luka Doncic walks up the ball, high pick and roll with the shooting big. Luka pulls away. Jay Crowder, Suns don't switch. Jay Crowder goes with Luka. Your big man then stays on the popper. DeAndre Ayton just inexplicably leaves the popper wide open, and they hit 3 of the 4 shots. what the hell? That is in no way, shape, or form any way they played that in the regular season. They would blitz that half the time against poor ball handlers. Luka's not, so usually they would just switch it. DeAndre Ayton would, or they wouldn't even switch it. DeAndre Ayton picks up that shooter because he's not going to get beat off the dribble by freaking Maxi Kleba. And the inability to utilize Mikal Bridges as a defensive stopper. It took them till game 3 against the Pelicans to do it against Brandon Ingram. It took them till it didn't really happen at times in this series against Luka Doncic. That's inexplicable, and that doesn't even get into the months of mismanagement at the point guard position when they failed to ever get a consistent backup point guard behind Chris Paul. This has been a problem since the bubble year. Cameron Payne had a great year there. He wasn't very good last year. They tried to bring in Landry Shamet to supplement him, and they didn't do it. And now Chris Paul again playing game 93 on the season, his legs are completely dead. He can't play the same kind of defense. His jump shot isn't doing the same thing. He has to rely on his mid-range. All of those things, again, compound over the year. That is a failure not of the players. That is a failure of the coaching and the team to manage throughout an entire season. And I think that's something we overlook when we talk about young coaching staffs and young teams.
And to support your point, take a look at it just in this game. All right, let's forget what the actual game plan may have been for Phoenix. You're down 10 after a quarter. Heck, that happens all the time in the NBA. Okay, boys. All right, here we go. XYZ's not working. Let's go to ABC. You do this, you do this. All right, let's get out there. Let's get this quarter and get the game back where we want it. No, it got worse. Not only did it get worse, it got just unbelievably out of hand. They were down by 30 at halftime. The second quarter was the worst of all the quarters. So you see it trending bad, and you've got to break, and you can't stop it.
And then that we talk about just defensively, but then offensively, Devin Booker was still playing his game, but his shots weren't falling. I was tweeting about it, and I know you saw one of them. DeAndre Ayton didn't touch the ball in the paint in the first quarter. Then they immediately get JaVale McGee a paint touch right out of the gate in the second quarter. That's bad play calling. That's bad coaching in so many different ways. I don't think you need to put that. Maybe it's Ayton's problem with not being aggressive enough. You might want to chalk that up to him. I honestly, again, I'm chalking this up to a poor game plan and a lack of adjustments. And the reaction now from Suns fans has been to, blow this team up. It's clearly not going to succeed. I've heard people talking about, Devin Booker clearly can't be the number one on a championship squad. Okay, historically bad, yes. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Those kind of statements are preposterous in my opinion. The guy is a 60-year player in the league. You do not anoint a guy as unable to win a championship as the number one when he's 27 years old, 26 years old, 27 years old, has been in the MVP conversation, is a year removed from a 3-year stretch, or is in the middle of a 3-year stretch where he's averaging 26, 6, and 4. And he's the third or fourth deadliest mid-range shooter in the entire league behind Kevin Durant and maybe one other player. Take your pick. No, that's ridiculous. Yeah, Chris Paul, there's a problem there. But again, that's mismanagement. That's not Devin Booker's fault. DeAndre Ayton maybe needs to be more aggressive. We're talking about a guy who's in his third year and, probably wasn't playing too happy considering he's still pissed off they didn't pay him at the beginning of the season. But not paying DeAndre Ayton is certainly not the freaking answer. I don't know how that's a question. Guys like Cam Johnson, that's the kind of guy that you sometimes have to let walk when you're building a championship team. Great shooter, not a great defender. Let him walk, get a mini max from the Charlotte Hornets, which they're going to have to buy out in 3 years because it's going to be way too much freaking money, and get him on the comeback. A couple years later when his career settled down. Those are the kind of moves the Suns have to make. But bailing on this Booker, Ayton, Bridges core is ridiculous, and saying that Devin Booker can't win it all when he's a year removed from being the best player on a championship team. I don't care what anybody says last year or this regular season. Devin Booker was the best player on the Phoenix Suns and the most important player. The Suns are going to be great next year. They're going to look a little different, and they have to, but that's not because these players or this build has completely failed.
When you take a look at the Mavericks, because the Suns are dead, no sense talking about them anymore. So you look at Dallas, who I really wasn't in love with all year into the playoffs. You can't take your eyes off Doncic. Tip your cap, literally tip your cap to him. He's great, but I go, man, I don't know. I don't know about this team. And then in this series, generally, and in this game specifically, the other guys who step up and were terrific, and you make 19 threes, shoot almost 50% from 3-point range. Certainly the guys shooting it, you got to make them, okay? But Luka finding those guys, he only had 4 assists, but everybody's coming to him. Their ability to find the open man on the second pass and ball movement maybe opened my eyes a little bit more than they were to who these Dallas Mavericks were.
Yeah, and Spencer Dinwiddie coming back from the injury and exploding for 30 points and being a huge asset, hitting 5 threes in the game and just being a sharpshooter. That's obviously a huge thing, and you got to give credit to the Mavericks for being able to utilize him in a way that they hadn't been able to that extent. But that's exactly what Spencer Dinwiddie looked like when you thought about how is he going to fit into this offense. That's exactly the role you thought he was going to take. But again, there's an issue with the Suns when you're giving 3 different guards 24 points for Brunson, 30 points for Dinwiddie, and 35 points for Doncic. I mean, that is getting just airmail destroyed by 3 guards in a way that everyone thinks that's how basketball works. It usually doesn't. Even in today's league, you usually don't get away with just bombing it like crazy and finding a way to cut inside and kill people on the drive just with a bunch of guards like that. But they did it. I mean, and Doncic is incredible. Are you a fan? I gotta know a little bit more old school. Yes or no on him, like breaking out like a giggle every time he hits a 3, like a step back 3 over somebody? Because every single time that game, he was hitting a step back 3, and as he's trotting backwards, he just starts laughing every time. And if you're on the court with him, I bet you want to hit him in the face. But I kind of liked it watching it.
As a casual fan of the Mavericks and a big fan of Doncic, you really like it. But for all the other teams and groups of fans in the league, they would tell you he's got a face you want to punch.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. I mean, every time he's trying backwards, just like it's, oh,
that
God.
Schoolboy smile.
And you're up by like 35 doing it. Like, oh, that's, yeah, it's a good thing he's playing in the NBA right now, because it's a good thing he's 6'7", 230 also, because that would not fly in a lot of different ways. But, I mean, you obviously, again, a lot of criticism obviously towards the Suns, but as much as I hate doing it, a ton of credit to the Mavericks. They drew up a scheme that the Suns were not prepared for. And again, I think it's inexplicable in a lot of ways. I think the Suns had the athletes to do it, but they didn't. And so I got to give credit to the Mavericks. They clearly drew something up the Suns were not ready for, and credit to Jason Kidd and the Mavericks coaching staff. They're going to have a hell of a time doing it against the Golden State Warriors. But at this point, counting the Mavericks out in this series would be the foolish move, I think.
We'll talk about that in a second. Let's take a look at the Celtics and the Heat. The obvious, and maybe it is the number one thing.
God, it's going to be fun.
The obvious matchup is Tatum versus Jimmy Butler. And I think it's legit. 2 really good teams, though. These 2 showed. And so I'll tell you what. Let's start with Boston. The thing that amazed me in the series was how it seemed like a different guy each win in the series. You had a different guy step up, and ultimately you left Milwaukee playing whack-a-mole. And strategically.
Yeah, I know. I like that.
And will they be able to do that against Miami? A brilliantly coached team, a brilliantly run organization. I'm not sure the Celtics can do that.
But you're absolutely 100% right, because it's the Horford game, the Jaylen Brown game, the Jason Tatum game, and the Grant Williams game. Those are the 4 wins. Those are the 4 wins. You're 100% right. Yeah, the defensive matchups here is going to be crazy, because both these teams are so good at 2 things that you have to be good at to be a championship defense in the NBA. Taking away the other team's best option and being able to pack the paint and make it hard for other teams to score. Really simple, but it's hard to do. And these teams are going to be incredible at it. We saw it yesterday, or on Sunday, I should say, with what they were able to do to Giannis slowing down the other team's best player. And I think the entire season you've seen the Heat be able to do that, whether it's blitzing things with Jimmy Butler, whether it's throwing guys like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent at you. They find ways to neutralize your best defender, and then they're going to pack the paint. Guys like Bam Adebayo are so versatile, and so it's going to be tricky. So it's going to be a much more defensive, kind of slug match than we're really used to in a conference finals, even in the Eastern Conference in the NBA. But I'm going to be excited to see how it plays out. Again, that's going to be the big matchup, Tatum and Butler. But the Marcus Smarts, Grant Williams, Al Horfords, what are they going to be able to do against the Gabe Vincents, the Max Struses? I don't even want to say Bam Adebayo because he's more, the Jaylen Brown level of player. But the bench on the Heat has just been so good. And again, it's been so good while a $90 million player in Duncan Robinson, who was so key to them making it to the finals 2 years ago, is on the bench because their team is built off defense. He's not even playing. So what are the bench players of the Heat going to do against the bench of the Celtics? Because both of those benches have been so crucial whenever the starters have just lagged off a little bit. So now the question is, unstoppable force, immovable object, which one kind of gives this time around?
The one guy you mentioned when you were listing Miami players, Strus is a guy that really intrigues me because you don't even think about him.
Nope.
And then all of a sudden, a couple of daggers come your way, and you go, "Where the hell did that come from?" But he does it consistently enough. I mean, that's me as a fan watching. Obviously, they know all about him. He's on the scouting. They know everything they need to know about him. And the Celtics won 2 out of 3 the regular season, so they know. Yet somehow he still comes in to a game and delivers some pain.
Again, the guy was on the bench with the Bulls 2 years ago. No one knew who he was, and now he's grabbing 10 rebounds in a Eastern Conference semifinals game and bombing threes. Alongside Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. It's just amazing what the Heat culture. That's a kind of cliche phrase they used on there, but still, it's real. What they've been able to do to cycle in bench players. Other teams that have won, they have done it. We saw the Memphis Grizzlies do it. We saw it to the point the Suns do it. That's how those teams got through this regular season. But no one does it to the level that the Miami Heat do it and to the consistency they do it. And this year, it's kind of a extra shined on thing. But they did it with Duncan Robinson. They've done it with Vincent. Now they're doing it with Strus. These are guys who they never were supposed to be this good. But you get them with Pat Riley and you get them with Eric Spoelstra, the best coach probably in the NBA. And they're key cogs in a potential championship team. It's this Eastern Conference Finals starts tonight is going to be so much fun to watch. If you don't know this Heat team yet, get ready because you're going to walk away a Max Strus, Bam Adebayo fan. I guarantee it. And I mean, I haven't even mentioned Tyler Hero, who comes off the bench and is liable to go for 30 points at any time.
Yep. And so to kind of wrap up their portion of it, I'm unabashedly rooting for the Boston Celtics and Jason Tatum, without question. If you made me put down $20 right now, I think I got to lean Miami.
Yeah, I think I got to lean Miami as well right now. It's just they're so damn deep and their system is so plugged in right now. There's not going to be an Al Horford game in this series.
I don't see it.
It's not going to happen. So the question is, can there be a Jaylen Brown game? Can Jason Tatum have pull out 2 or 3 wins on his own, or maybe win and a half, 2 wins on his own? 3 is a little bit ridiculous to ask at this level, but can he pull out 2 wins on his own? And then can there be a game where the Celtics bench outduels the Miami bench? Those are 3 kind of pretty hard bars to clear for the Celtics. I think smart money, you're right, is on the Heat. And I mean, and again, Vegas, we're saying that kind of definitively, but at the same time, Vegas isn't even that confident about it. It's a 2-point spread tonight in Miami's favor. 2 points, that's nothing.
That is nothing.
At home, that's a pick'em.
That's absolutely nothing. And then Ime Udoka, as you said, Spoelstra might be the best coach in the NBA. So we'll all be micromanaging our looks at matchups and who's doing what and see if there's an impact there. I think for those of us who like to watch these sorts of things, we'll have our scalpels out. There'll be a lot of dissecting to do.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to see how they come out. Who's Marcus Smart matched up against? Is Jimmy Butler taking Jason Tatum from the get-go? Who is Grant Williams picking up Jimmy Butler to kind of free up Tatum on the defensive end? I would expect that. And more than that, I think the biggest ones to watch, do they option Bam Adebayo onto somebody like Tatum or Brown?
Yeah.
And then pretty much say, listen, if Horford's going to be the one who wins you guys a game, fine, we'll live with it. I'll be interested to see how they utilize Bam Adebayo, because at 6'10", he can guard anyone from 6'5" and up. I mean, he's that good on the perimeter.
All right, let's move on. We've got the upstart Dallas Mavericks going to Golden State. And if before the playoffs began, you would have said, well, this is going to be the conference final. First of all, we both would have said poop. No chance. And I would have said, if it was this, Mark Cuban's in for a beatdown. But now in real time, geez.
I mean, I don't hate it.
They can't stop Doncic, period. They can't.
No.
I don't think they can even hope to contain him. So if you're Golden State, how do you look at your other matchups and, okay, one spot you're going to lose bad, but can you dominate the other four spots on the floor? That's got to be their approach, doesn't it?
I think so. And you know what's crazy, by the way? We talk about the Mavericks as the upstart. They won one less game than the Golden State Warriors.
I know.
And if they go to the finals, they will have home field advantage against either of the teams in the East.
Well, and here's the deal. Here's why. We all, because of Golden State's I'm not saying it's right, because of their pedigree, we all just gave them they've been hurt. They've been hurt. Once they get healthy, they'll be the same great Golden State team. Is that going to be true? Well, we're about to find out. We're about to find out if giving them a pass because of injury is reasonable or not. And I think Dallas is going to say, like Rick Majerus once said, you are what your record says you are.
Oh, no, sorry. They wouldn't.
And that means Dallas is damn good.
Yeah, they play home against the Celtics. Sorry, the Heat have 53 wins to the to their 52. 52. My bad. I remember the Warriors would have home field advantage against the Heat because they beat them in the regular season series. But it's still crazy how many wins the Mavs had. We're using things like unexpected and upstart and those kinds of adjectives to describe them. But you're right. The Warriors do not have an answer for Doncic. If this was 3 years ago and there was a different Klay Thompson, that would be the matchup to watch, I honestly think, across both these series. But unfortunately, because of the injury, Klay Thompson isn't that level of defensive stopper, and so I do not know what they're going to do. If they had Gary Payton the second, they'd be able to throw him out there. They unfortunately don't. So that's going to be the big question. So can the three-piece of Doncic, Brunson, and Dinwiddie, can they outscore the three-piece of Curry, Poole, and Thompson? And I think that's one little math problem we can look at.
That is, and I was going to ask that in a different way.
Oh.
What do you think the Mavericks scouts learned about Golden State in their series against Memphis? What did they learn about them that they can put into their defensive game plan? And I think they can guard Thompson.
Yeah, especially if you because they're going to throw Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock. They're going to throw those two at him. Guys like Maxi Kleber is going to be really physical with him on switches and pick and rolls and things like that. Undoubtedly, I think it'll be interesting to see, do they attack Thompson early with those guys? Thompson can beat those guys offensively, but can he stick with them and continually, taking shots from those guys on the defensive end? I think that'll be a big question throughout a longer series than people expect.
Yeah, before you go to that next part about that, he gets on little mini streaks and runs, but I don't see the consistent guy. Now that I've called him out, he'll probably get 40 every night for 4 straight games. And I'm a huge fan. But since he's come back and he's had some marvelous games, but when he's been a focal point of the defensive scout, it's been more of a struggle for him.
Yeah, and you know what? Come to think of it, I'm sure we'll see a lot of Andrew Wiggins
Yeah.
guarding Luka Doncic. That'll probably be the call. They'll disperse Curry onto Dorian Finney-Smith. They'll put Poole on Reggie Bullock, and they'll put Klay Thompson on Jalen Brunson or Dinwiddie, probably the lesser of the two guards that's out there with Doncic. That's probably how they'll D it up. And then on the other side, we'll probably see Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock guarding, I'm guessing, Curry and Poole, and then maybe they go with kind of a committee thing with some of the other guys trying to go after Thompson, just because he's not as mobile. If he's going to get his looks off he's going to get his looks off the catch, maybe so much off the dribble, so you're not as worried about him dribbling past a guy like Brunson. I'm guessing that's how the defensive matchups would go, but switching the other way, the Mavericks can't take advantage of, I think, what was the biggest pro for the Memphis Grizzlies, which was Steven Adams. Dwight Powell is not Steven Adams, and that's their biggest guy. And he can be effective in a lot of ways, but he's not going to be able to bully those guys. That's going to be something where Draymond Green's going to be comfortable. They're going to kill the Mavericks in the paint probably most games. And I think that'll be interesting to see. Does the Warriors' ability to score behind the Mavericks defense give them that last little bump they need from the fact that Doncic is going to be incandescently unstoppable the entire series?
I think another thing is measuring, and you can't always do it with statistics, but measuring Draymond Green's impact on the series. If he's one of the guys running at and frustrating Doncic, which I think is something I might do, because Draymond is the kind of guy that can drive anybody crazy. But if they try it and it doesn't work, we're going to see, it's going to be unbelievable because it'll end up being edited out. We'll see Draymond Green's head explode like Scanners. You remember the old movie Scanners?
Oh yeah.
His head, if he does everything in his power, fair and unfair, to frustrate Doncic, and it doesn't, his head's going to explode.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I like that. Oh man, that'll be fun to see because there's a good chance he probably takes a dumb cheap shot on Doncic when he's guarding him at some point,
yelling at him, screaming, the stuff he does.
I like that you brought up Draymond though, because again, those easy pick and pop threes that the Suns were, again, I cannot believe allowing. There is no way, and again, my head will explode if Draymond Green fails to get the Warriors defense to consistently cover that look and hell, take it out of the game plan by game 3. I will be shocked. There is no way that Mike Brown, I don't care if he's looking at homes in Sacramento right now, there's no way he lets them get that easy pick and pop scoring. That's gone. Can Doncic make up for that?
So let's get to the pick.
It's the Warriors. It's going to be fun. I don't want to crap on the Mavericks, but I really honestly think that we're going to remember that the Warriors in the regular season were a good to great defensive team, and even without Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton II. By the way, Gary Payton has 2 sons, and that's what he named them. He named one of them Gary Payton Jr. and one of them Gary Payton II. I'm not getting confused. He confused me, all right? It's not my fault. That's Gary Payton's fault. Even without him, they can be an above-average defensive team, and I think they match up well against the Mavericks. I'm going with the Warriors in 6.
I'm going to be a prisoner of the moment.
Yes.
After Dallas, what Dallas did to Phoenix, and I think they're going to frustrate the Warriors. They're going to drive their entire organization insane, so that in the offseason they do some crazy stuff to change their look. I'm going to take Dallas. I'm in love with Doncic. I'm going to take Dallas, although I love the Warriors. I love teams that can shoot, man. I love them.
Heck, again, the Dallas guards put up 90 points between 3 of them.
Yes.
On let me see how many threes they took. They took 8 of 15. They went 13 of 20. They went 13 of 22 from 3. Just their 3-point guards, and they combined for 90 points, 89 points. So yeah, there's a lot of shooting in this series. There's hella defense in the East and just people bombing it out west. It's going to be fun.
I hope that in the West, neither team decides to guard, and we just run up and down and shoot jumpers. And it's a 180. It's an NBA All-Star game.
Did Adam Silver hand you a card, tell you to read that? Because I have a feeling when it's 98 again, and the Eastern Conference Finals is finishing 84-81, Adam Silver's hands are going to be in his hands are going to be in his head, just like, please God Almighty, tip off in Dallas right now. I need to see 140 points tonight, and he'll get it. He'll get it.
When we get together on Friday, we'll get a feel for everybody's game plan, what they were trying to do, what they could do, and what they couldn't do, and set it up for the rest of these two series. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah,
I can't wait. And you know what? Here's the thing: if you're the Suns, it's rough. If you're the Grizzlies, it's bad. I know. Just turn on a little Sinatra, a little Perfect Track. That's life. Sometimes you're riding high in April, and then you're shot down in May. That's life, baby. Just turn it on and book some tea times.
Wow, that's life. That's the NBA playoff theme song.
Riding high in April.
Maybe we'll get a soundtrack for the open of the next show.
Oh, I like that.
That's Matt Rocc. I'm Bob Ramsey. Thanks for being with us. Remember, always go against every one of my picks. You will be a winner. We'll see you next time. It's the two-man game right here on Claibs Online.
At St. Louis Acura, new inventory is arriving daily, both new and pre-owned. Our buying team adds a higher level of personalized service that others can't match. We sell over 100 pre-owned vehicles monthly, and many of these are matched by our buying teams in Missouri and Illinois. As new Acura production ramps up, be one of the lucky ones to try the newest Type S models now available. Performance has never been so stylish and comfortable. St. Louis Acura remains committed to becoming better than ever for you.